With John Ford dominating the A product of the genre and proving it was not just for Saturday matinee kiddies, other directors found their way into westerns with similar results. William Wellman made The Oxbow Incident, based on a novel by Walter Van Tilburg Clark. Howard Hawks directed Red River with John Wayne and Montgomery Clift. Henry King made The Gunfighter with Gregory Peck. George Stevens did Shane with Alan Ladd, and Delmer Daves did 3:10 to Yuma with Glenn Ford and Van Heflin. Wayne and Ford made the famous Cavalry trilogy, which consisted of Fort Apache, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and Rio Grande. And another one of the greatest Western actor-director collaborations began in 1950 when James Stewart starred in Anthony Mann's Winchester 73. Joel McCrea, the star of Stranger on Horseback, devoted his career exclusively to westerns after making The Unseen in 1946. That was a horror film. While Robert Goldstein produced this film, it was really his twin brother Leonard who was the principal backer. Leonard Goldstein had just come over from 20th Century Fox, where he formed Panoramic Productions. That company's most famous film was the 3D release Gorilla at Large. Goldstein, a former contract producer at Universal, formed a company with his brother and Robert L. Jacks, the son-in-law of Fox studio chief Darryl Zanuck. Stranger on Horseback was the second of a multi-picture deal releasing through United Artists. Goldstein had produced McCrea's Saddle Tramp for Universal. He wanted Joel McCrea for this film. The only problem was he didn't have the money to pay Joel full salary. McCrea worked for a small upfront salary and a 25% share of the profits. He also wanted a choice of director. The deal was made, and McCrea chose Jacques Tourneur. Now, Jacques Tourneur had worked with McCrea in one of his favorite films, Stars in My Crown. He was no stranger to the genre of westerns. In fact, Tourneur directed one of the first post-war westerns, Canyon Passage, which starred Dana Andrews and soon-to-be stars Susan Hayward and Lloyd Bridges. Tourneur was the son of famous French director Maurice Tourneur and learned the trade from the ground up. Having directed as well as edited several films in his native France, he came to the United States to direct second unit sequences for MGM's 1935 blockbuster A Tale of Two Cities. Now, the producer of those scenes was a young man who would become a major influence in the film noir genre, economy filmmaking, and the career of Jacques Tourneur. His name was Val Lewton. Tourneur worked his way up at MGM, directing a host of shorts over the next 4 years. Moving to the B unit, he worked on 2 of the 3 Nick Carter series with Walter Pidgeon, and the first one, Nick Carter Master Detective, was a great example of what could be done on a small budget. His short and B experiences served him well when his old buddy Val Lewton was given his own unit at RKO. Lewton's instructions from RKO's management was, make films quickly, cheaply, but make 'em good. Lewton selected Tourneur to direct the first effort. It was The Cat People, made for a meager $134,000, and it wound up grossing $4 million before the first run was completed. Jacques also directed 2 other successful Lewton films, I Walked with a Zombie and Leopard Man, before graduating to the A ranks, where Tourneur lost no time in making the quintessential film noir Out of the Past with Robert Mitchum and Kirk Douglas. Following Stars in My Crown, Tourneur directed a Burt Lancaster action film, The Flame and the Arrow, which is most known now as a showcase for Lancaster and his partner Nick Cravat's gymnastics abilities, and one of Max Steiner's best scores. Tourneur also filmed Circle of Danger in England with Ray Milland and Appointment in Honduras with Glenn Ford and Ann Sheridan. He came back to the horse set and Joel McCrea with this film, Stranger on Horseback, and once again the pair collaborated on Wichita, in which McCrea played Bat Masterson. Ever the workaholic, Tourneur continued making films for both the big and small screens. In fact, his most notable TV assignment was a Twilight Zone segment entitled Night Call. If you find this film, Stranger on Horseback, visually staggering, there's good reason. While much of the film's principal photography was shot in Mexico, the company spent 5 of the 18-day shoot among the Red Rocks of Sedona, Arizona. Located about 100 miles north of Phoenix, Sedona is one of the most picturesque places in the United States. Producers Leonard and his twin brother Robert Goldstein were native Arizonans, albeit coming from Bisbee, Arizona, as in 310 to Yuma, and that town is located near the Mexican border. They had realized the beauty of this country firsthand, and they knew that over the years several films had been made in Sedona. In fact, Harry Sherman shot Texas Trail, a Hopalong Cassidy Western there. Gene Autry made The Strawberry Roan in Sedona and found the country so breathtaking that he shot the film in color, one of only 2 Autry features not lensed in black and white. Another B-series Western, Viva Cisco Kid with Cesar Romero, was filmed in Sedona. Joan Crawford was part of Sedona for a while when she filmed the cult Western Johnny Guitar. Part of a non-Western, Fox's Leave Her to Heaven with Gene Tierney, was lensed among the scenic Red Rocks. And perhaps the most unusual use of Sedona's beauty was in John Wayne's Tall in the Saddle. But Wayne never set foot in Sedona. All of the footage was second unit stuff. Ray Ranahan was the perfect choice as director of photography for this film. Ranahan was one of the first ever to use Technicolor. His experience with the process went as far back as the 1920s. He shot the color sequences for The Wedding March in 1928, Gold Diggers of Broadway, and King of Jazz in the early 30s. 2 of the most famous color horror films, Dr. X and Mystery of the Wax Museum, were photographed by Ray Ranahan. He shared an Oscar with Ernest Haller for Gone with the Wind and with Ernest Palmer for Blood and Sand. He was the principal photographer for Duel in the Sun. His only equal capturing the beauty of our country's natural landscape was Winton Hoke, who shot She Wore a Yellow Ribbon and The Searchers for John Ford. This film was not photographed in Technicolor. It was shot in Ansco color. This was a process that was developed in Germany but was not brought to the U.S. until after World War II. While not the equal of Technicolor, the restoration process made this film look good. Jacques Tourneur viewed the rushes in black and white, and when he saw the finished color product, said it looked ugly. Well, it's quite possible that Tourneur never really saw a finished release print of the film. Production records show Stranger on Horseback was to be filmed from start to finish in 18 days. The first group of cast and crew, led by Jacques Tourneur, flew into Prescott, Arizona on July 8, 1954, en route to their headquarters at Sedona Lodge, which is now known as the King's Ransom Quality Inn. A second group of 43, including Joel McCrea, Miroslava, and Kevin McCarthy, left Los Angeles to join them on July 11th. Additional cast members followed 3 days later. 5 days of filming in Sedona began on July 12th with 5 scenes. The first was McCrea bathing at Red Rock Crossing. The rest were photographed on local roads at Broken Arrow and in the area behind Sedona Lodge. The next day, production moved to Schnebly Hill, and a day later to Jack's Canyon. Shooting continued there on day 4, then moved to the Chapel area, where Sedona filming wrapped on schedule July 16th. For the next 2 days, 18 writers, including local photographer and location scout Bob Bradshaw, were hired as extras for fill-in shots. The total cost for the Stranger cast and crew's round-trip travel to Sedona was about $4,000. The total bill for room and board came to about $10,000, and another $3,000 or so was pumped into the local economy for bit players and extras. After 2 days off, shooting resumed on July 19th at Newhall, California, at Gene Autry's Melody Ranch, but the production was rocked just 4 days later when Leonard Goldstein died suddenly just a few hours after suffering a massive cerebral hemorrhage. Death would touch Stranger on Horseback again. Less than 2 weeks before the film's release on March 23, 1955, Miroslava Stern committed suicide by barbiturate overdose, reportedly triggered by a breakup with her lover, bullfighter Luis Miguel Dominguez. When her body was discovered in bed, she was clutching 3 farewell notes in one hand and a photo with her and Dominguez and his mother in the other. Her sad end made her a Marilyn Monroe-like tragic figure in Mexico. Miroslava, a biopic based on her life, was released in Mexico in 1993, starring American-born actress Ariel Domblasi. Interesting enough, Miroslava was not Mexican. She was born in Prague, Czechoslovakia, adopted by two Jewish parents who were forced to leave what was before the war Iron Curtain country and wound up settling in Mexico. She was a very beautiful woman, and this was one of the few American films that she made. Her death certainly was a tragedy. Despite Turner's disappointment, Stranger on Horseback got decent reviews, although funny thing, a lot of reviews credited the beauty of the scenery that Sedona gave the film to Mexico. One was Variety. Stranger on Horseback popped up on late-night movies for a few years, then gradually faded from view. But in recent years, this film has been given a new life with retrospectives on both Joel McCrea and Jacques Tourneur. It has been shown at major venues like New York's Lincoln Center, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the Paris Centre Pompidou.